Okay, I'm going to call to order tonight's meeting, the September 15, 2016 Board of Supervisors meeting. Will we please stand for the pledge? And Mr. Crowley, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We also have a moment of silence for those serving this country both abroad and at home. Thank you. Sorry, I had trouble calling the meeting to order. Someone lifted our gavel, so if anyone out there knows where it is, please bring it back. First up is announcements. Ms. Frescator.
Good evening, Warminster residents, fellow board members. I have some announcements for the Parks and Rec. We have discount tickets available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more prices, check the website. They do accept cash and credit cards. We have tickets for discount premier movie tickets and to Regal Edwards United Artists for $9.50. We'll be selling amusement park and local attractions tickets through the fall. Parks and Rec also sells 2016 dog licenses, and we're still taking applications for the Bark Park. Friday, September 16th is the heaviest tomato contest, so all you gardeners out there, bring your tomatoes to be weighed. Parks and Rec is seeking sponsors and golfers and foot golfers for October 10th golf outing. This year has a new twist for the foot golf. If you're interested, go online, register with the Parks and Rec office. Our Touch a Truck event will be held on Saturday, October 22nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Warminster Community Park. Families are invited to this free event. Come and see this showcase of municipal service and emergency vehicles up close. The Fall/Winter Township newsletter will be mailed to residents soon. For information, please contact Parks and Rec. Also would like to say my fellow board member Mark McKee and I were at the Ershkaberg VE Oktoberfest this past Saturday, along with our Judge Finello. Had a wonderful time. I've been a member of the Ershkaberg Club for 25 years. My husband and I just recently received our pins. It's always a great time. It's one of the nicest Oktoberfests in the entire area, and it's nice to have us right here in our township. So if you ever get a chance to get over there, they have the little cottages that have been there for many years. It's a really beautiful ground to go see.
And it was also the 85th anniversary of the club and the 79th Oktoberfest, the oldest Oktoberfest in the county. Thank
you. Yes, that's true. We had a wonderful time. Also on Sunday, my fellow board member Dan McPhillips and I attended the 9/11 memorial service at the Hartsville Fire Company. It was very bittersweet, it was sad, but you remember when you're there that we, as Americans, we have a difference of opinions. We may not always agree, but after that disaster, we all stood together, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, and came out stronger. And as a little girl, my father always taught me to thank members in the armed services, our police officers, our firemen. I saw parents and children doing that there, and that was very humbling. So, again, it was a very beautiful service. There was a beautiful mural. It's online if you'd like to take a look at it. At the Hartsville Fire Company. It was a very beautiful ceremony. And congrats to the chief over there and all the people that came to honor the fallen in 9/11. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Monroe.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Mr. McPhillips.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Hartsville Fire Company. Early next month, 6 volunteer firefighters from the Hartsville Fire Company will travel to Baton Rouge, Louisiana to work with a relief organization to help assist homeowners who have recently been affected by the recent floods. To me, that's really going above and beyond, and perhaps when they come back, Mr. Chairman, we could recognize them.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
That's great. The second announcement comes from the Ben Wilson Senior Activity Center, and they will be having their annual spaghetti dinner fundraiser. That'll be next Friday, September 23rd from 5 to 8. It really is one of their bigger events. It's a really nice community event. It's not a buffet dinner. It's a sit-down dinner. I'll be back again this year serving people plates of spaghetti dinner. But I got to stress, the last couple of years, people have been tipping me. There's really no need to tip me. I'm not saying that I don't want the tips or anything. I said that I'm not that good of a server. So you really don't want to tip me. But come on out to the Ben Wilson Center next Friday. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Crowley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things before I get to the new businesses. Just want to really quickly ask Greg, if you could, something was brought up to me late this afternoon. I think everybody read the story about Warrington when they did the interconnection with North Wales. They had a problem with some of the pressure, and I was asked if anything happened like that here. None of us are really aware of any reports, but could we check with the Water Authority and just see if we're okay from a pressure standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to check with Tim Hagee. Myself, I have not heard any reports of that. And obviously, we already had an interconnect there, and some of the other systems and other townships that did not have that connection may experience pressure changes. But I'll look into that and report back.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, new businesses in town. Happy to welcome in the last half of August 5 new businesses. Banacom Signs and Design there at 301 York Road, Suite 103. PA Health Quotes and Marketing at 607 Lewis Drive, Suite A. Liberty Church at 1523 West Street Road. Havis Incorporated's new buildings finally opened, 55 Jacksonville Road. And a small little thing called Taco Bell on York Road open.
Yeah, busy.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. First announcement I have is we had a brief executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss a possible land acquisition along with a litigation item that we discussed. I have a few announcements tonight. I'm going to start with September the 24th. There's a health fair over at the SMG. It's free to the public. It includes free blood pressure, glucose testing, spinal screenings, etc., as well as other health and wellness related information available to you, and flu shots are available for purchase, and that is free to the public. It's SMG. The next up, I have a bit of good news that was given to me by Judge Finello when he got here tonight, that Coach Bill Capo of the girls soccer at Archbishop Wood got his 300th win tonight. It was a 5-0 win over Bonner Pendergrass, and we just wanted to congratulate him. That's quite an accomplishment. My other announcement is this Saturday at 11 o'clock at the VE, being we were talking about the VE, is the 4th annual Booby-Q. What that is a barbecue fundraiser that benefits the Rosenfeld Cancer Center. And I have a lot of experience with the Rosenfeld Cancer Center because I was treated there for colon cancer, and it's nothing but top-flight people that work there and a great facility. So come on out to the VE, have a little barbecue, and have a couple of beers and support a great cause. And while I'm on that, I just want to, before I wind it up, I'd like to offer my condolences to the Quinn family on the passing of our friend Leo's brother, Kevin Quinn, at age 55. Kevin did not win his battle with colon cancer. Had Kevin got his screening at age 50, he may be able to talk to us today. So I know I sound like a broken record up here, but I have this pulpit that I use, and I use it every chance I get to please encourage you to get your screenings and don't ignore symptoms, because it's a very treatable condition. So that's all I have. So I'm going to move on to presentations. And the first presentation I have is Officer Brad Fox, 5K Foundation, Darren Meehan. How you doing, Darren?
All right, Mark. Mr. Chairman.
Mark's
Good evening, everyone. I'm joined with Tom and Kathy Fox, who are Brad's parents. Most of you have probably met them. Just a quick note, up there you can see that's the site where Brad was killed. 2 days ago, Tuesday, was the 4th anniversary of Brad's death. So just thought we would put all this in perspective. And on a happier note, yesterday would have been Brad's 39th birthday. So, we had that on Tuesday, and then the family celebrated Brad's birthday on Wednesday. Couple of pieces of business. We want to recap the 2016 event, talk a little bit about the 2017 event, and then we have some friends from the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group. And we have a donation. They're the last donation we have to make, so we thought we'd make it here at the Supervisors meeting. Excuse me. So for the 2016 event, we moved it to Archbishop Wood. We closed York Road, the portion that was renamed in Brad's honor, in 2014. The event was staged at Archbishop Wood. Runners ran north on York Road, turned around just before Bristol Road, came back into Wood. It was a great event. We had about 750 runners and walkers. We probably had another 200, 250 people, a handful of volunteers. Hugely successful day, and it would have never been successful without the support of all of you, the police department, the fire department, the Hartsville Fire Company, the first responders. I mean, everybody did an exceptional job in coming together to make this day possible. And so I just want to thank everyone. Joe Velton's here. I want to thank Joe because Joe was really important in helping us move this along. And obviously thank Archbishop Wood for letting us use their land for free. That was
Are you planning on doing it there again? in
We are.
17?
You're making me jump to the bottom.
Oh, I'm
right?
sorry. Go right ahead.
But the answer is yes, we're going to do it there again. The closing of York Road went pretty well. There was just one issue with an apartment complex that didn't get the notifications. I've already talked to my committee. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to go door to door in every apartment. We went door to door in every business and every home, but we relied on the landlords and the owners of those complexes to notify their people.
There's a girl that lives in there that works in Tony's, and believe me when I tell you, I heard about it.
We probably shouldn't bring her name up, but I think there's only one name that comes up. So, and I actually did email her. In fairness to her, I mean, she was trying to go to her job that morning. She wasn't told. I'd be upset if there's a cop standing there. I don't know if I'd be as upset as she was, but I completely understand from her perspective. So this year, it's really one of the things that we're going to focus on doing better, and that is we're going to go door to door. We're going to notify every single person in those complexes so that everybody's aware of this. And I think we're also going to have signs made to put right at the exits of each of those apartments for maybe 3 weeks leading up to it as well. I'm really proud to announce that as a result of all of our work, we were able to make $10,000 donations to each of the following: the Brad Fox Scholarship Fund at William Tennant High School, the Duskin and Stevens Foundation. What they do is they raise money in support of the families of fallen special forces, special ops forces, to support them. And that was started by someone who's from the Warminster area, with obviously a couple of his guys as well. And his sister's back there as well, and his mother. And then finally the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group, and they're here tonight, and we're going to present them with their check tonight. We have already talked to Archbishop Wood. We've secured the date of March 25th for next year's event, a little bit earlier, but 2 weeks earlier without the wind on the runway, it should be kind of negligible. And hopefully I won't sweat quite like I am right now. But. And yes, and it'll be on Brad's son's birthday too, which will be really nice.
Aww.
So we're going to make it a really good birthday for Brad's son as well. And Kathy's in charge of the birthday committee for that. So, and this year I've worked with Brad's widow Lindsay and Tom and Kathy and Brad's brother and his wife, and we always donate to the Brad Fox Scholarship Fund at William Tennant, which I believe is the largest scholarship that's awarded annually at Tennant now. We're also going to donate money to the family of Gabriel Lee, who's a firefighter in Philadelphia that lost his life on the job a couple of months ago. And also, we're going to raise money this year for the Ronald McDonald House. Okay, so we talk amongst one another, find things that Brad would have supported, and we put all our efforts towards that. So that said, you have a lot on your agenda, so I'm going to stop talking now. I do want to bring up Eric Weiner, who's with the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group. Maybe you can just talk for a minute about what they do.
Absolutely.
And then we'll give them a check and we'll get out of here.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks.
Great
Thanks.
job, great cause.
Thank you.
Sarah, do you still have the Brad Fox menu going on over at Steam?
That ends usually the week of the race. This
So
year they ran it for a week after, and then I'll talk to Martin again, or if
I'll
you're
mention-
in there before I'm in there.
I probably will be.
Just run it by them, but they're really great.
He usually starts around Christmas Eve and has the menu through till race day.
That's pretty good of them to do. So
That's very generous. Yeah, they're good people, and their entire staff. When you go in there for dinner or lunch, I mean, they explain what the menu is. They explain why they do it. They do a great job with it. So hopefully we get them to do it again. So
awesome.
when you're in there this week, Mark.
I'll mention it.
All right, thanks.
And
So
everybody else.
yeah. So if Eric, where is Eric? Like I said, Eric could just give everybody a little bit of an
Sure.
overview of the Bucks County Down Syndrome Group.
Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have us here. I want to thank Darren, I want to thank Tom and Kathy for presenting us the check for tonight, also the men and women that are in blue here as well. My name is Eric Weiner. I am the co-chair of the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group. Along with me, we have some amazing families with us that we brought along that were nice enough to come along out of their busy schedule and come here with us, to be with us tonight. Like I said, we are with the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group. We are a family-run group that is made up of husbands and wives, brothers and sisters as well. And we get together as many times as we can. We hold functions for siblings. We have a holiday party. We just recently had a swim party where we just kind of get together as families, and our kiddos can hang out together, as well as the brothers and sisters as well. We do touch base with some of the hospitals, as well as the doctors in the area, and offer our outreach to them as well. So the donation that is coming to us will help us out greatly. Again, I do appreciate the generous donation. And through Brad, I know that we will do good. And I thank you guys very much for taking the time.
Eric, can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
Do you guys have a web presence or somewhere that people listening or watching may want to donate towards the cause? Is there a website we can plug for you?
There is. It's the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group .org on there. I do have a card on me as well that I can give.
If you could leave the card with one of us,
Absolutely.
we'll get a picture up online and we'll share it out.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's great work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
I think Darren wants to.
Yeah, so it's just a check, like I said, for $10,000 for the Bucks County Down Syndrome Interest Group in Brad's name and Brad's honor, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys want it? All right, yeah.
Sure. Okay, should we
Okay.
take a brief recess for it, or should we just?
You want to,
Come over.
the officer thing?
Up here?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll tell you what, can you guys wait for a minute? We're
Yeah.
going to swear a new officer.
Yeah, I was just gonna
And
say,
then
we
we're
wanna
gonna
get that out of the way first,
And
totally.
then we're going to take a recess anyway. So
No
Why
problem.
don't we do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, thank you, Darren.
Excuse me. Go ahead with your card, I'll make sure. Okay. Pass it on over to Greg.
Okay, next up on our agenda is we're very pleased to announce that we have a new police hire, and he's to be taking his oath of office tonight, and his name is Dennis Murtha, and I was really glad to hear before the meeting, he's also a Warminster resident, and his wife is a lifelong Warminster resident, so I think it's really terrific. I'm going to ask Chief Donnelly and Judge Dan Finello to come up to introduce the officer.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Chief.
How are you? It's my honor to present before the board is Dennis Murtha. Dennis was born and raised in Northeast Philadelphia, the Longcrest section of Philadelphia. He attended Catholic school there, a Cardinal Doherty graduate. After that, he went to Philadelphia Community College and Drexel University. He chose to follow the footsteps of his father, grandfather, uncle into law enforcement, the Philadelphia Police Department. After training with the personnel of the Tactical Division and within the department and in narcotics enforcement, SWAT, Homeland Security, Dennis was able to learn a lot and a great deal in his time in the 39th District. He's a 10-year vet of the Philadelphia Police Department, where he met his wife, Laura. As you said, she's a lifelong resident of Warminster. Dennis moved into Warminster 3 years ago, and they've had 4 children since then, Juliana, Nathan, Vincent, Dominic, and number 5's on the way. Congratulations.
Oh, man.
All right.
It's going to need a lot of overtime.
Like I said, Dennis, in talking with Dennis, he's thrilled to come to Warminster. He'll start Monday, and we'll get him out as, he'll be our 44th officer.
Awesome.
So without further ado, I present the judge and Dennis Murtha and his wife Laura.
There you go, Judge.
Very much.
Okay,
Should be on. It's on.
okay. Chief Donnelly's a hard act to follow, so I won't even attempt it. I just want to welcome Officer Murtha into the township and the police department. A lot of his fellow officers are here, and that's a great tribute to him. And also, I just want to tell you that the court, we will treat you with the dignity and respect that our officers deserve. We're looking forward to seeing you there. And I also think it's kind of cool that we're swearing you in the night we're honoring the Brad Fox Foundation. Brad's valor and his bravery were an inspiration. So, without further ado, Officer Murtha, are you ready to take the oath of office?
Sir.
Okay, repeat after me, sir. I, Dennis Murtha,
I, Dennis Murtha,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I shall support and defend
that I shall put up and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully
the
discharge
duties of my office
the duties of my
as
office
a patrol officer
as a patrol officer
in Warminster Township,
in Warminster Township,
Bucks County,
Bucks County,
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations, officer, and thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. I don't want to take that.
The agenda is public hearings, the zoning ordinance hearing. Mr. Savona, consider the adoption of ordinance 733, zoning ordinance amendment. Mr. Savona.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're on the record. This is the time and place set for the advertised public hearing to consider the ordinance which is before the board this evening, this is ordinance 733, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Warminster Township to provide for a number of new uses and to make some various other administrative adjustments to the text of the ordinance. As a preliminary matter, the board authorized the advertisement of this zoning ordinance amendment during our May meeting in 2016. Since that time, the ordinance was referred to the the Bucks County Planning Commission for their review and comment in accordance with the terms of the municipality's planning code. In addition, the Warminster Township Planning Commission reviewed and commented and recommended adoption of the ordinance. The ordinance was advertised for this hearing on September the 1st and September the 8th in the Intelligencer, the newspaper of general circulation for Warminster Township, and the ordinance is properly before the board this evening. By way of summary, because the document is rather lengthy, and for purposes of the audience here in the room and the viewers at home, under the Municipal Planning Code, the Board of Supervisors is required to hold a hearing, a public hearing, prior to the adoption of any zoning ordinance amendment. The purpose of the hearing, of course, is to solicit any public comment regarding the subjects that are covered by the ordinance. At the conclusion of my summary, I would ask the audience if anyone has comments. I would only ask that you identify yourself because there is a court reporter here this evening making a record of this hearing. The ordinance that's before the board this evening adopts a number of new uses that are not presently covered by the Warminster Township zoning ordinance. Specifically, the ordinance creates uses regulating the placement of medical marijuana dispensaries, which are a new use that's been created by the General Assembly this year. It also provides for the creation of a medical marijuana grower processor use, which is not a use that we presently have. Again, that use was created by the General Assembly when they adopted the medical marijuana provisions of the new act, which will govern the licensing of those facilities. Those two uses, the dispensary and the grower processor facility, are placed for the dispensary in the commercial C1 and C2 zoning districts in the township. For the grower and processor use, those are being placed in the industrial office and the industrial zoning districts. The uses are exactly what they sound like. The grower processor facility is more of a greenhouse or a warehouse type operation where the plant product, the cannabis, is processed into the oils or other substances that will be distributed in the dispensaries. The dispensaries are the retail shops where these would be distributed pursuant to the appropriate medical prescriptions. It's important to note that both of these classes of facilities are licensed or will be licensed separately by the Pennsylvania Department of Health, but the statute that creates these uses unfortunately doesn't do anything, with some exception, to regulate with any real extent where and how those things can be placed in your individual municipality. Aside from a 1,000-foot separation requirement from certain schools and daycare centers and things like that, there's very little in the way of local restriction. The Act merely says that these uses have to comply with whatever the local zoning ordinance provides. So in order to appropriately regulate these and to keep them from popping up all over the township in areas just because they're zoned commercial and These could be a retail establishment. We have established certain rules and regulations that would govern how a medical dispensary is established and what conditions they would have to meet in order to be located within Warminster Township. For the medical marijuana dispensary, there are some 15 conditions which we've established that the dispensaries would have to meet in order to operate within the township, in addition to the licensing requirements from the Pennsylvania Department of Health. Some of those include the hours of operation, providing for security programs so that there's 24-hour surveillance, appropriate securing of the products when they're not open for business, a minimum lot size of 1 acre for the facility, a minimum of 2,000 square feet for the shop itself, so these don't pop up in little spots all over in strip centers. And as a requirement, among other things, that these not be located within 2,500 feet of another type use. So they're not going to be proliferate throughout the township. For the medical marijuana grower and processor facility, again, these will be regulated and licensed by the Department of Health. We have established 15 conditions in addition to those regulations to govern their placement here in Warminster Township. And again, those deals typically with safety, security, and the placement within the township and their separation from other uses of similar nature. In addition to those two uses, the ordinance creates two other classes of uses which have become something of an issue throughout other parts of the county, which our ordinance did not address. One is what we refer to as the sober living facilities. There has been a proliferation of these facilities, which are places where individuals reside together for the purposes of recovering from drugs, alcohol, or substance abuse issues. Throughout the lower end of the county, there have been a number of these. Bristol Township has adopted regulations relating to these. Ben Salem has adopted some regulations. And because these uses are becoming, again, a little more proliferate throughout the lower end of the county, we felt it appropriate that we address those uses and their placement in our zoning ordinance. So we have created some regulations to determine where those facilities can be placed. And again, these are facilities which would be more than a small household. They're typically more than 4 or 5 people residing together. And because those are somewhat inconsistent with a residential neighborhood or a residential setting, we've limited those to the commercial zoning areas where the buildings are larger and the placement would be more appropriate. So we have created that classification of use, and we've placed it in places where the planning commissions have recommended they be placed to provide the most consistent placement. We've also created regulations relating to the placement of massage therapy centers. This is another use that was not existent in our zoning ordinance presently. Our neighbor, Upper Southampton, has had some experience with those types of facilities and has adopted regulations. Of course, when one place adopts rules, it tends to push them out into other adjacent municipalities. So we've provided some regulations to help control both to restrict to some degree their operation and to require placement in a way that would not be inconsistent with residential areas and to limit the areas within which those can be placed. Again, those would be in the commercial areas, and there are hours of operation limits and buffer requirements for where they are adjacent to residential neighborhoods. The remainder of the ordinance, and there are a number of provisions which are added, these are more or less what I would call cleanup items. A good number of these are issues that have been accumulating, and our planning consultant and planning commission recommends from time to time that we do a cleanup of some provisions of the ordinance. It's been a while since we've amended the zoning ordinance. The process is lengthy, it's expensive, so when we do this, it's usually helpful to get as much corrected as we can. So you'll find throughout the ordinance that we've also made adjustments to some of our existing provisions governing accessory structures, for example, the stacking distance in drive-through lanes. There's been some adjustments to the mixed-use zoning districts. We've provided for the placement of bus shelters, which we found when we dealt with the kids from Wood that we don't necessarily permit those in the township, so we've helped ease that level of restriction. And again, some additional cleanup items for parking regulations and other such things. As I said, the ordinance has been advertised. It's been recommended both by the Bucks County Planning Commission and the Warminster Township Planning Commission. The matter is appropriately advertised and before the board for this evening. At this point, any comment from the public or the board would be appropriate before we close the hearing and the board decides if you want to consider adoption of the ordinance.
I got a question. Mike, as far as medical marijuana, this is a big issue that's been in the papers for a while. Do we know how many licenses are going to be distributed?
The state, yes. The state has authorized the issuance of 150
Okay.
dispensary licenses throughout the state. I don't know off the top of my head how many grower processor facilities, but it's less than the dispensaries. The restrictions, I will tell you, the qualifications to get one of those licenses is fairly onerous. I think it requires the posting of $1 million cash escrow with the state, and a lot of times you can't necessarily get financing for those things because the banks don't traditionally deal in medical marijuana because it's still federally prohibited. So there are some significant requirements that those facilities will have to go through, and as I said, there will only be 150 of them throughout the entire Commonwealth, and there are, as you know, 67 counties and almost 2,600 municipalities in Pennsylvania. So the likelihood that we're going to see an intense concentration in Warminster is probably remote, but by the same token, southeastern Pennsylvania has the highest concentration of population throughout the state. So I think it's very prudent that the board is taking these steps to just make sure you're out ahead of the curve before the licenses start to be issued.
So you're saying the action we're taking tonight doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have one of these
Does
in
not.
Warminster?
It does not.
Perhaps in Bucks County, but necessarily in Warminster.
What it does, Dan, what it prevents is that if you were to get one, that it could go anywhere the applicant wants it to go. This is more a belt and suspenders approach to guarantee that if one of them does choose to locate in Warminster Township, they would have to satisfy the 15 requirements that you guys have set as the minimum necessary to make sure that it's appropriately located, appropriately patrolled, that it's safe and secure, and that it's not going to become a nuisance.
Okay, now the massage parlors. You did really good work in Lower South with a resolution, with an ordinance there. Does this language say anything about as far as the hours of operation?
It does. It's the operations can commence no earlier than 7 a.m. and no later than 10 p.m.
Okay.
So we've limited it more or less to the business hours. There are also a number of other restrictions that actually bear more on the licensing. Again, these are facilities that are, if they are legitimate massage parlors and not some house of ill repute, they are also required to be licensed by the state. Part of the police work sort of that we do in making sure that these facilities are being used for what they're intended is to patrol those licenses. By making that a part of the zoning for the property, if their license lapses or they don't have appropriate licensure or they have individual therapists working there who aren't licensed, that would be a violation of their use and occupancy certificate, and we could take steps to shut them down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any more questions or comments from the board?
I'm just happy that we're taking these steps to protect our residents and our community.
Agreed. Can I open it up to the public? Is there any questions or comments from the public regarding this matter? Please come up.
Good evening, my name is Victoria Lewis. I live at 724 Sherrill Drive. I'm very pleased that you have taken the good steps in this township and considering the ramifications of this Marijuana Act. I just have one question about it. I was a bit surprised when I read the definition on page 4, and then when I got to page 15 where it was talking about parking, I realized that I didn't need to worry too much, but because it talks about space for staff personnel. But I would like to see something like that in our definition also. I think a phrase with appropriate supervision added to the definition on page 4 might be appropriate, so that people realize that are living in the community that there will be staff there to help the people that are living there, or in case there's any problems with the people in the community, that they know that it's a safe situation. So I would like to see something like that. Then on page 5, I read this whole thing, I'm afraid. You were talking about mixed use in the R2 residential section. And one of the uses is use 34, which is an indoor commercial entertainment use. I really would like to see that removed as a right and put in as a special exception. I look at how busy and how active SMG is with the traffic and the parking and the cars. And even though we don't have much mixed-use area left as far as acreage, I would hate to see a residential area have that many cars and that much traffic if they had a large indoor facility such as SMG. So I would like to have it as a special exception, that it could be looked at by the zoning board, or even if you wanted to look at it as the Board of Supervisors as a conditional use. I think it would be an appropriate thing to do just to protect the people that are living in a mixed facility area. The next page, on page 12, section 24, number D, the height of the accessory use for some reason has been changed. In the present zoning code, it is for 15 feet. For some reason, it was changed to 20 feet. I haven't figured out quite why, because if I lived in a ranch house and my next door neighbor, who would be allowed to put an accessory use 5 feet off the lot line, built an accessory building 20 feet high, I might not be too happy, and it might affect the value of my property. So, I mean, I realize at some point, some people might need something a little higher than 15 feet if they have a large boat or a truck or something like that they want to store on their property. But I think it's something that should be a variance, because if they have that big a problem that they need 20 feet, they probably also would need a variance for the 500-foot total lot that they can build on for that facility, for that accessory use. So to me, it should be a variance and not leave it at 20 feet. It should come back down to 15 feet. Then on section 25, it's on the same page, letter H. It talks about 15 feet from the primary or other buildings. And I was just curious if that other buildings includes accessory use buildings, because I think that kind of might make a difference.
Does it? It's both. It's both. It's designed to group them, as I recall. This, again, was one of those recommendations from the planner and the planning commission, but notice how it's phrased. Swimming pools should be located not less than 15 feet from the primary structure, right? So it's based on the primary structure. The idea is to keep it as close as possible to the primary structure, or other buildings. So if you've got a primary structure and a pool house,
Right?
no building could be located more than 15 feet from the pool.
Okay. And that would include the accessory building?
That would include any, yes, any
Okay.
building that you're
It just
supporting.
didn't seem, I would have added the word accessory building to that final.
Well, there are other buildings that are not necessarily accessory buildings.
Yeah,
so-
or add it accessory building, so it's very clear to everybody that that's what it is. And in closing, the thing that I was very disappointed about is your page 15 and 16, which is section 2204. I'm very happy that you're going to try to control large trucks and boats and things like that. But I think we need to go a little further. We have trailers parked on streets in this township. There's one right on Roberts that's been there for at least a year. We have pods that have been in front yards for months and months and months, and it really does not look attractive. I really think it doesn't do much for the township, and I really think they could be controlled. And in the future, I know Hatboro just passed in October of 2015, ordinance 1027, where they are controlling the pods and controlling placement and controlling times and things like that. And I think it's something that we should consider to keep our township looking attractive and clean and make it a desirable place for people to live. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Is there any other comments from the public?
Good evening. My name is Kevin McLemore. I'm the Director of STEM Education for Archbishop Wood High School. I wanted to speak in support of the amendment, and I wanted to thank the board and also the Planning Commission and all of the engineers and folks that helped us to get the amendment in there for the bus shelter that is extremely important to build, not only for residents of our township, but also for residents that visit us. So I want to thank you all for your work in that regard and for your fast action.
Thank you.
Come on up, Marie.
My name is Marie Brzezinski at 1098 Roberts Road. And as you know, Colorado is having a lot of problem with the driving of these people with marijuana. Have we established a system in here with the police department that they will be able to determine that the person that is driving is not drunk with wine, but marijuana? Have we already trained the police in our township to detect?
All right, so here, it bears drawing a distinction here so that everybody understands.
Yes.
Colorado legalized marijuana.
Yes.
Okay, so if you travel to Colorado, maybe this would be an enticement, I don't know, but you travel to Colorado, you can
Yes.
purchase in the leaf form that you smoke, you can purchase edibles that are like the brownies or the candy, gummy bears, whatever, and you don't require, it's not a medically restricted product. You can walk in like you could into a 7-Eleven, any place that's been given a license by the state of Colorado, you can purchase that with no prescription and you can use it freely anywhere you want.
Okay.
That is not what we have done.
Okay.
Okay? Pennsylvania has passed a medical marijuana bill, which only allows the dispensing of marijuana to someone who has been, tested and prescribed specifically by a doctor, a prescription for this particular product. And the methods in which it's going to be distributed are very, very limited. You won't be able to walk into a dispensary and buy a brownie or a gummy bear or to even buy a rolled up cigarette. It's only going to be distributed in oil form or in pills, so that it's taken like a medication. And the class of people who can get it are not going to be anybody who walks in off the street. Now, I won't necessarily, I'll defer to the chief if I'm incorrect, but I believe that the current driving under the influence statute is written to contemplate both someone who's impaired by alcohol that's measured in your blood alcohol content, as well as a general impairment portion of the statute, which covers someone who's impaired not by alcohol but also by a controlled substance, which can be detected through either a blood or a urine test. The breathalyzer will pick up alcohol, which is usually what's done, before anything else, but you can detect the presence of marijuana by either blood or urine test, and then the police would be able to charge in either event, whether it's under subsection is A1 or A4 of the DUI statute. Our police have been doing that for decades. The DUI statute in Pennsylvania has been set up that way since it was adopted. We routinely charge people for both aspects, whether it's because they're intoxicated or because they're under the influence. And I don't know, Chief, that you need any, do you think you need any special training in order to deal with that?
There is special training. Our officers are specially trained in drug recognition and alcohol recognition. So, yeah, it's there. We have it.
So we're good to go, Marie.
They have it.
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Well, that's not a question to you. You are the solicitor. How soon would you think that a person will have $1 million to open a
Excuse me,
business?
just 1 second. Just for the benefit of folks at home, can you repeat what the chief?
Oh, yes. The chief indicated that as part of the police department's training, the officers are all sent to special training for alcohol impairment recognition, drug impairment recognition, and that our folks are already trained to recognize those things as part of their normal duties.
Yeah, they're already trained. We
Yes.
understand that.
All
Now,
right, go ahead, Maria.
how often do you, how soon do you think this will happen with regard to our township? Do you have any knowledge of anybody that wants to put a business?
Not that I know
A
of.
dispensary business, we're not aware of anybody who's shown an interest of dispensing medical marijuana in our township.
We're just taking precautions for the future.
Yeah, when somebody decides that they want to open one of these businesses, will the public be allowed to know ahead of time?
I guess there would be a lengthy approval process, starting with the state before it even gets to us, I would assume that there's going to be a mechanism that we can use to alert
First, the
people.
state has to decide.
Right. Yeah.
Then the zoning,
Right.
and then the planning, right?
I don't think they have to go to planning.
So the State Department of Health is still finalizing the regulations.
Okay.
That'll govern how the licenses are issued, okay?
Okay.
What we know is from the statute itself, there are certain requirements, but the actual mechanism to issue the license, I don't believe they've finalized those regulations yet.
Okay.
So nobody will be able to get access to a license until the Department of Health finishes that up, and I don't think anybody expects that before the end of the year. After
that's
that.
good news.
After that, whoever's going to apply, and by and large, and I don't want to speak to this authoritatively, but everything that I've read so far is that the entities that are seriously looking at the licensing, who have the $1 million in cash and who have an interest in this market, are the pharmaceutical companies, right? So Bristol Myers Squibb or Bayer or whoever can afford to post $1 million and get the license, they're the ones who are probably most likely going to go in for a license application, and probably that's who you want, because they deal in drug manufacture and handling all the time. They probably will go through a licensing process that's going to take several months, and once they're approved for the license, they would have to come to Warminster Township and apply for a UNO for any facility where they would want to locate. And that, at that point, the township would be aware of it, and we
To
could
the
take,
township manager or to the township?
they would apply to the township L&I office for an
What
application
is
for a UNO.
L&I office?
License and inspections over on Bristol Road.
Okay. Okay. So far, so good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public like to comment on the issue, the matter at hand? No? Any other comments from the board? I'm going to give it back to Mr. Savona.
There's nothing further, then I believe the hearing is concluded. We'll close the record on the zoning amendment hearing, and a motion would be in order, Mr. Chairman, to approve ordinance 733, the zoning ordinance amendment as it is advertised.
Is there a motion?
Motion?
Ms. Frescatore, is there a second? Second. Mr. McPhillips, is there any further comment from the board?
No, I think it's good work by everybody involved. Thank you to Mike and his office and the township staff, and getting this all, there's a lot of moving pieces in this. I want to thank all the residents who came up and spoke, Vicky for her due diligence with pointing out those issues, and we will take a look at those. But I was glad to see this move so quickly, and just thank you to all the people who worked behind the scenes to make this happen.
Agreed. Is there any further comment from the public before we take the action? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. We're done with Mr. Oxford. Okay, next up is public comment. Township residents have the opportunity at this time to comment on any non-agenda items subject to a 5-minute guideline as recognized by the chair. Is there any public comment? Larry, good to see you. Come on up.
Good to be here. My name is Larry Menkes. I'm 741 Clifford Street in Warminster, and a member of the Environmental Advisory Council. We have discussed the water issues since almost the time that we formed this new council. And since there were no hearings held or no events held for this in Warminster, where the largest population exists, we have partnered with a new organization called Bucksmont People for Clean Water, with the support of the Riverkeeper Network and Clean Water Action. Now, this event will be held this Sunday, and I'm going to hold up a copy of the flyer. I don't know where the camera sees this. I've been asked to do this.
He's getting a picture of it, don't worry.
And it's being held at the Fuge, at the Naval Air Warfare Defense Center, 780 Falcon Circle in Warminster. The landmark there is a big tower with a radar dome on top. For those who don't quite know where it is buried a little bit back, but it is part of the base itself. Where are some of the problems?
Larry,
Larry, turn it this way so we can catch it on the camera.
Other way,
Toward
other
me,
way,
Larry.
other
Toward
way.
us, Larry.
Toward us.
This one right here.
Right there.
Right
All
there.
There you
right.
go.
Right there.
See, you're this way a little bit, Larry. Beautiful.
There you go.
Got it.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, it looks good.
So we're having a different point of view. This isn't sponsored by the Navy or the DEP, but who we have is one of the authors, the co-authors of a paper at Harvard Chan School of Public Health that claims a very high standard for what should be in our water, 100 to 1,000 times higher standard than we have coming out of the EPA at the moment. So we've invited water authorities to be there to just comment on what they've done, how they were when it started, where they are now, and where they plan to go. And we also have a special session for veterans afterwards, and veterans, which I am one, claim that there have been very little attention paid to their concerns. So
Larry,
I
that's on our
invite
website as well, on the township website.
It is?
Yes, it is, Mr.
Oh, I'm very
Schuster just
glad
brought
to
that to
hear
my
that.
attention. That's been posted.
Is it on the TV?
I don't know if it's on the TV or not. I don't believe so.
I haven't seen it on the generator.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, for those who aren't on the web, it would be nice to have this. We're getting a lot of attention on this one, partly because we're the only ones that have done this. Warminster has actually led the way in this in the 5 communities that were originally affected. And I want to congratulate Tim Hagee for his cooperation and his work on this. We were also planning a tour. The EAC is planning a tour of the water facility and of the first most advanced pump filter that's out there.
I took that 2 weeks ago with Tim, and it was fascinating. I learned a ton.
Bet
I
it
did.
was. A lot of people think you just turn a couple valves
Yeah.
to make these things
Yeah.
happen. And a lot of people are frustrated that it hasn't happened faster. And if it could, it would have here. And I think we're doing a good job getting
Well,
it
Larry,
to
you're to be
net
commended as
zero.
well. You've been on top of this and made people aware, and you're to be
Well, I
commended for that.
haven't done this alone. I've had the cooperation of a very good team here. I think, in my opinion, we have the best EAC we've ever had. And we have some young people on it and some women. And so I'm very delighted that the talent involved is very high. So thank you all, and I hope to see you on Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. at the Fuge. If you've never been to this place, just going there is an experience, okay?
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks,
I
Larry.
also want to thank Sam Cravero for making this facility possible for us.
Sam's a good guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
My name is Tom Williams. I've lived in Warminster for 38 years. In that time, I've raised 5 children. I've been involved in Warminster sports, volunteered for a lot of different things, and I thoroughly enjoy being here. I wouldn't have been here for 38 years. And in the last 10 or so years, I'm staying here, so let's see what I can do. And the roads, and it was selfish at first, the roads in my development were deteriorating. And I started about 10 years ago with, and I can't even remember what manager, because we've gone through 3 or 4 in that period. And it kind of always ended the same, you're not on the schedule, you're not in our plans, you're not going to be looked at. I don't know the exact amount of miles of road in Warminster. I know it's a big township.
100.
100. So the section I'm talking about is only 5 miles approximately. Yes?
As someone who lives in this section of the township, I think the last time these roads were worked on was 1988. If you look at the
1988. Yeah, I just found that out yesterday.
So well overdue that something gets done. I couldn't agree with you more.
And, the only time I got any feedback was from Buddy, who was Public Works for years and years, and he came out and said, if you're only talking about holes that big, we have animals get lost in some of the holes in the township. So, pretty much I wasn't going to get any, comments on it. So, every couple years I get this, bug on myself, and so this year again in May or June, I figured I'd start again.
Well,
And
go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
so as I looked into it here, we had another new township manager, and when I got put to the Public Works, he was also new, only a week on the job. So part of the reason I'm here is that finally I did get someone from the township. Eric Hines came out He got in touch with me, came out, he did a thorough investigation of the whole, what we call the northwest section between Delmont, Valley, Street, and County Line. And his expertise supposedly is in roads.
Yes, it is. That's why we hired him.
And he said they were some of the worst roads he ever saw. So I don't know whose attention we got, but my main goal was just to be given, when are we going to be on a schedule? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 28 years. And I think, if I can remember back, 28 years ago, we just got cinders and tar. I don't even think we got paving. So I came here tonight, to thank Eric at least for coming out, and then Kathy Frescatore, I also contacted her because I told Eric I would, because my wife and I and many people today walk, bike in the neighborhoods for physical reasons, and we also don't have lights in that section. So you walk late at night with no lights, it's an accident waiting to happen. So Kathy came out, videotaped it when we went over the roads. So in that 1 week span since Kathy came out and a couple months since Eric, today and yesterday I found out that our section is now on the schedule for next year to be repaired. That's what I was told. So I guess I'm thankful for the people who were involved to do it, who got this to happen, but I guess my next thing is, someone had said it's a big project. Would it be, they don't know if they do the whole thing all at once, or, because 5 miles, I don't know how much reasonable a township can do in 1 year. What's on their schedule?
Well, where we've changed things up in the past 2 years is, one is hiring Eric because his expertise is in road paving. We've gotten a bump in liquid fuels money, tax money, which we use to pave our roads with.
Right.
And we're doing more paving ourselves with our public works guys. So to answer your question is, we'll be able to do substantially more paving in the years to come. Now, as far as next year specific, we haven't laid out next year's road program yet, because I don't think we know what we're getting in liquid fuels yet, for starters.
Actually, we do. We've gotten that number. It is, again, a substantial bump.
Right.
And if I could just jump back, one of the things that I've noticed, coming here, is that there was no comprehensive road program in place. And that's something we are going to be creating. Residents deserve to know when their road is on the schedule. Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? And it's not always the right answer. I mean, sometimes you have to move up a road or move it back depending on local conditions and other priorities. But that system should be in place. And it's not right now, but Eric is going ahead and creating that. Part of the struggle with Eric, though, is it's paving season, or at least paving season's ended, so he's been out there with the guys paving the roads. In the case of this development, Eric went out there, he reported back to me, and he agreed it's in very poor condition. The roads need to be repaved, and he said it is going to be on for 2017. How much of it, I can't answer right now. As we're looking at the liquid fuels money and the other budgetary items, we're trying to do at least 5 miles next year, and that would be 5 miles in different areas. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to do everything, but we'll have an answer. At least we will do something there, and we do recognize it's a problem, and as much as possible will be addressed next year.
Okay, I said it was a breath of fresh air with Eric, because I'll be honest, I was selfish. I was worried about Acorn Drive where I live.
Sure.
And he came out and he said, Tom, there are bad roads, but you're not the worst. And he's right. Miranda, Hopwood, Bradley, there were some really bad roads out there. So I recognize both sides of the coin. I'm not, just my street.
Right.
And even driving here tonight coming on Henry. Henry's not the best road in the world in the township, and it's one of our main roads, which is probably why it's not.
And we try to make the residents aware. If there's something that needs a repair, please reach out to us, because if we don't know, we can't send a crew out to at least do a repair if there's a hole or.
On top, to that, Eric did call me and say, listen, if you could do me a favor and help me, since you do walk the streets and you do see them, so the second page there is something I'm going to pass on to Eric, was the worst spots of.
And I did take lots of pictures and lots of notes that I'll pass on to Greg. My major concern that when I rode around with Tom was where the bus stops were too. And then if you have people that are riding their bikes or walking at night with the holes, and there's a lot of deterioration on the side where the edges of the roads are starting to deteriorate. So, but the school bus stops is a really major concern. Maybe they could do some kind of repair there in some of those sections so people won't get hurt riding their bikes or walking.
And I think the direction of the board is headed that we're going
Yeah,
to be
and
mainly focused on road paving for years to come now, because our storm water issues, major ones, have been mitigated, and we're focused on road paving.
If we back up for 1 second, Greg Huggerbridge, the former director of engineering, before he left here, he mentioned, he identified this area needs to be worked on, whether it was put on the list or not, but the township did recognize this area does need work.
And that's all I wanted to know was the schedule. You know, if you told me, hey, we're going to do half next year and in the next 2 years, we just can't be, all right, next time. And, you know, Kathy makes a good point. The bus stops are important, but the kids have to walk to the bus stops.
Right.
And the streets are, I don't have children, but I still care for the children who have to get there. And I stopped at transportation today, and they were saying there's between 30 and 45 bus stops in that section, maybe more, because that just accounts for elementary, but high school might use the same one, and middle school might, so it might be 60 or 70, but she couldn't give me a real number. So, doing some research, you know, bus stops are important too.
There used to be a thing where townships used to do a road tour, and supervisors would literally go, get in the van and drive around. I think that's something we need to bring back to Warminster.
I actually
and
do
a
that on
road
a
tour.
regular basis. I do.
But with Karen or Greg and our traffic engineer come in and just drive around the community,
It's a good
the
idea.
whole township, and identify what needs to be done.
Well, at the end, a lot of people, they come up and they give their beefs and whatnot, and I want to, you know, I was going to do that 2 weeks ago, and then I get good news, so I'd like to commend whoever was involved. You know, behind the scenes, I know I saw Kathy and Eric, but I know there's not just Kathy and Eric, there's more people. So to thank the people involved to make this happen.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Tom.
Thanks.
I'd like to just piggyback just on one thing with that with respect to snow removal. I know that there were some comments on Facebook. If I'm not mistaken, I think, Greg, you put something out
Yes.
there, and there was some responses with respect to last year's storm.
Oh, Lord.
It was a historic storm. But, you know, the biggest thing that was mentioned right now is, you just mentioned Eric, the head of Public Works. He was not here last year. So, you know, the simple fact that he is now in the building and he's got his team underneath him, I mean, I'm excited to hear your comments with respect to, you know, being happy with,
He got right out
yeah.
there and did what he was supposed to, I think.
yeah. So, thank
What you
you.
would want him to do.
All right.
I just wanted to mention that. That's
We
all.
appreciate you coming in and giving your comments, Tom. Thanks.
Thank you,
38
Tom.
years, just took me a beating.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. I'm going to give it to Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I'm got a little bit of a cold here, so if I'm stuffed up, just bear with me. The consent agenda for tonight. Item A is your approval of your minutes from August 18th. Item B and item C are two proclamations which have already been delivered. One is for the Warminster Pioneer Cheerleaders, and the other is commemorating the VE Club 85th anniversary, which you talked about earlier. Item D is authorizing Jessica Singer to apply for our liquor license renewal. The liquor license is for the golf club. This isn't for the township building or anything like that. This is for the golf club. Item E is a escrow release as recommended by the engineer for the milling project that was done along with the association with the paving. This would be the final payout. Item F is release number 3 from the Hart School redevelopment escrow as recommended by the engineer. Item G is release number 4 from the escrow account for 222 Norristown Road as recommended by the engineer. And those are all the items for the consent agenda today.
Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Motion.
Mr. Monroe, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Frescatore, is there any comments on the consent agenda? Any comments from the public? Consent
I
agenda?
don't know if that's the point to say something right now, but you guys are giving money back.
Come up to the microphone, Marie, so we can hear you.
I'm sorry. Marie Brzezinski. You are giving money back, and we were here 2 days ago when we are trying to work with the long stretch. And my point is, when these developers, people come with their big pictures and all their nice bushes and all their nice trees and all the greenery. And all of a sudden, you go in front of Taco Bell and I don't see a single plant. Or the fact that Taco Bell is using the entrance of TD Bank for the people to go to eat into Taco Bell. What happened when they put all these beautiful bushes and there are no bushes anywhere in Warminster? What happened to it? How come they get their money back? What happened to all the fight we had in our neighborhood with stupid Wawa that kill our trees that were there for millions of years, and they killed them. And now Wawa, I had a township supervisor telling me, oh, it costs too much money to take them to court. Please, give me a break. So you are giving money back.
Right, and
to
which escrow release are we?
This and that.
The Hart School escrow release. I can pass that over to Mrs. McNair.
I wish.
Sorry, formerly Ms. Holzheiser.
The only thing I'm trying to say is, I wish we would stick to the pictures that you present to us when we come in here like a bunch of idiots, and we see all this beautiful greenery. And then, what happened to the greenery in Taco Bell? What happened to the entrance of Taco Bell from a bank? Who did that? Who was the smart person that allowed that to happen? I hope it was not somebody that came to our meeting that didn't know his own name. Please, don't give a penny back unless they really, really mean to do what they promised. This town is turning into trash. I'm sorry, I'm very upset
Well,
about
I
that.
have to ask Mr. Thayer, the Hart School escrow release, is this in order according to land development agreement?
Yes, we, before recommending this escrow release, we did a site visit and confirmed that the items they're requesting have been installed, and they have been installed in accordance with the approved land development plans.
And the same with Norristown Road?
And the same with Norristown Road, yes.
Is this just an issue where the plants and the shrubs and whatnot just need
to grow?
To grow, right.
For Taco Bell, is that
Right.
the question? Taco Bell, we haven't released all of the escrow yet, so there may be still some plantings left in there. I'm not sure offhand.
Okay.
Well, can we take action on this before we get sidetracked to Taco Bell?
Excuse me. Before we go any further, remember all the fight that we had with the big company, Costco?
Right.
And what a beautiful job we did, thanks to a group of people that are not here today. And we forced them to put all those beautiful trees, thank God, okay, to buffer that horrible Jacksonville Road entrance. Please, and before I sit down, there is a big hole on York, and when you make a left to a street road, a real danger hole.
I'm sorry, that's on York?
On York Road towards the street road, I don't know east or west, I'm not an American. So I've never been a Girl Scout.
That's a
But
PennDOT
if you are
road, so we'll
going
have
to
to make
make a
PennDOT aware.
left,
Yeah, I can
there is
take care
a
of that.
huge bump in there. I don't know if there are cats in there dead.
Okay. All right. Is there any other comment on the consent agenda? We already have a motion and a second. Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next up is the treasurer's report. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've got a supplemental bill and a bill list. The supplemental bill list dated August 31st, 2016, in the amount of $202,889.05. And the bill list dated September 15th, 2016, in the amount of $1,282,402.42. And that is a total of $1,485,291.47.
Okay. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Mr. Crowley, any questions on the bill list?
I do not.
Comments? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business. Consider approval of Resolution 2016/34, creating a subcommittee to review and make recommendations to update the township's comprehensive plan. And I'm going to pass that to Mr. Schuster before we...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was discussed at your last meeting when you came to a consensus to form a subcommittee. I drafted this resolution, which of course you can go ahead and change, but the way that I propose this would be a 7-member subcommittee, 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, 2 from the Planning Commission, 1 from the Economic Development Committee, and 2 citizens at large.
So let's, before we take any action, we want to have some discussion amongst ourselves before we take action on the resolution. Here's my thoughts. I'll even be glad to go first.
Go ahead.
My thoughts were that Mr. Crowley and Ms. Frescator have showed an interest in this committee, that perhaps we pass the resolution and we appoint these two to take the committee, and then they can make recommendations as to the makeup of the committee and bring them back to us to approve at an October meeting. I mean, does that...
Sounds good to me.
I'm okay with that, if you think it's a good idea. And
Well,
I'm
I mean,
sure
I'm just
Greg
throwing
could-
it out there for discussion.
Right, I'm sure Greg could give us some ideas too, you know.
At least that gets the ball rolling.
I'm okay with that. I mean, as I said, it's something that is desperately needed in the township. It hasn't been revisited in a very long time. And we want to keep the open space that we have for our residents to enjoy, and we want to have responsible building. So it's definitely something that's needed. I'm happy to serve.
What's the proposal again?
Well, we have the resolution in front of us, the makeup of the committee.
Yeah.
My thoughts were that we would appoint Mr. Crowley and Ms. Frescator to, however, whoever, the committee can decide on the chairperson for the committee. It doesn't matter to me. It's up to the committee. But they can come up with names
Who the other 5 people will be.
for the committee that we can appoint as a board next month. You know, they could come back with a list of
Right,
recommendations.
because I'm liaison to
And then-
planning, I could reach
Right,
out to
And then
planning.
the committee can organize themselves
And
after.
I can meet
I mean,
for
does-
coffee or
does
a
that-
drink or whatever. And
Does that sound?
Well, I think that the planning commission should pick their 2 members.
Right.
The economic development pick their
Correct.
1 member, and citizen at
Correct.
large would be the board.
Correct.
So the township sends out letters for seeking 2 citizens at large.
Correct.
Right, right.
And then, but tonight, I think we should take action on the resolution and appoint Ms. Frescator and Mr. Crowley
Okay.
to move forward, and then we'll take the further action when we get those names back.
Right.
And then the board can organize it whatever date they set forward. I mean, does that sound?
Support however you'd like, if you want to go that approach. So if I compare that back correctly, you'll pass the resolution, then you will appoint Ms. Frescator and Mr. Crowley. At that point, I can communicate to both the Planning Commission and the Economic Development Committee and ask both of them to forward their recommended names, 2 from the Planning Commission, 1 from the Economic Development Commission, and I'll leave it, we'll also advertise if any other citizens are interested, and I'll pass those names along to the 2 of you. Is that what I'm hearing?
sounds
Yeah,
great.
I mean, that sounds.
Yes, it's a good plan.
Good path.
When were you thinking of having the first meeting, the subcommittee, because the economic development committee, they don't meet for another month, we just met.
So if we get,
You're looking towards the end of the year, I
December.
think,
End of the year?
realistically,
Okay.
yeah. We could at least maybe have an organizational meeting before the end of the year and kick it off in January with earnest.
Now, will this include any kind of staff at these meetings? Will
Yeah,
the president-
our planning consultant would staff it, along with our assistant township manager and occasionally myself.
Because something we might want to think about is the Economic Development Committee. We have a planner from Bucks County come to every meeting. Since Warminster is part of the Bucks County Economic Development Initiative, we have someone at our disposal that possibly we could utilize.
Absolutely. Well, the county should be involved in this process no matter what, so.
because they have to approve the plan anyway.
Do they have to approve it, or they have to?
They have to review it.
Review it, so, yeah, okay.
The County Planning Commission will, I've worked with, and actually, the Bucks County Planning Commission did our last comprehensive plan, which was approved back in 2004, 2005. They would, I'm sure, be happy to consult with the township as we're moving along. I know that they do charge for that service. They do the economic development stuff through the MEDI program free of charge. When they do the planning consulting, they do bill for that. So you would be engaging essentially then 2 planners. So I'd just be careful about,
Exactly.
too much overlap.
It's probably the same guy.
Yeah.
What's the time frame of this, of the length of the committee?
That's
Good
that's a good question. You can set a time frame. I mean, we're supposed to have this plan done every 10 years. The last time it was done is 2003, so we're already late.
Yeah.
But
Probably going to take a while.
it is going to take some time to go through all that. I would not be surprised if it took a full year. I don't know what your experience.
It's typical, depending on how frequently they meet, right? 6 to 9 months is usually the shortest that you could come out of the other end with a coherent, comprehensive plan. And then that document going through the adoption process takes at least 90 to 120 days. So, you know, I would think Greg's probably right. You better count, if they start in earnest in January, by the end of next year, we'd probably be lucky to have a draft document for the board to start looking at.
Very good.
So do we need to take separate actions here? Can we
Yes.
do this?
Yeah.
We need to
First
adopt-
motion would be to adopt Resolution 2016-34.
All right, so I'm going to call for a motion to adopt Resolution 2016/34 to create the subcommittee to review and make recommendations for an update on the township's comprehensive plan.
Motion.
Ms. Frescatore, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. McPhillips, any more comments or questions from the board? Any from the public? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And now, Mr. Chairman, since you've created the committee, a motion would be in order to appoint the two supervisors, as you indicated previously, to serve on the committee.
Okay, is there a motion to appoint Ms. Frescatore and Mr. Crowley to serve on the committee?
Motion.
Mr. Monroe, second?
I'll second.
Mr. McPhillips, any more questions from the board or comments? No? Any from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. All right, we're off and running with it. Excellent.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I won't be thanking you a year from now, but thank you.
I might not either, Jay.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for, but it's, no, I'm excited that Kathy and I get to be a part of this, and really, we don't have a lot left here, so this will have a lasting impact on our
That's
community.
right.
So.
More than likely, it'll be one of our last, if not our last comprehensive plan.
Actually, it's the last plan that would deal with new development.
Yeah.
You're starting to transition to the point where your plans now, probably more of it will talk about the redevelopment of the old stuff, which is what you're starting to actually see come in front of you more often now. So you're right. The chance to break virgin ground and build new things is pretty much over.
Yeah.
You're going to transition to the redevelopment phase of the township's growth.
Very good.
I'm just, I want to say I'm very proud to be appointed to this committee. I get to follow my mom's footsteps, who was on her comprehensive plan in the township where I grew up. So I'm very happy to do this on behalf of our residents. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Review Land Development 16/03, Ann's Choice Neighborhood 2, amended final land development. Mr. Savona.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the time set for the board's consideration of an application for an amended final land development plan for Neighborhood 2 of the Ann's Choice Warminster campus. As the board's aware, Ann's Choice is a 94.7 acre, more or less, continuing care retirement community located at Veterans Way and Johnsville Boulevard within the CCRC community, or Continuing Care Retirement Community Zoning District. The applicants are present this evening, represented by their engineer, Eric Britz. The applicant's proposal this evening is to amend the Phase 2 continuing care building for Neighborhood 2 to be a two-story, 61,245 square foot building instead of the approved four-story, 71,900 square foot building. There are some additional site improvements, including the removal of 10 parking spaces and the construction of an overhead pedestrian bridge. The site is served by public water and sewer. The plan has been reviewed by the County Planning Commission, by the Warminster Township Planning Commission, by the Township's planner, by the Township engineer, and by the fire marshal and other township consultants and staff, and has been recommended for the board's consideration and approval of the amended final plan. Mr. Britz, I'd ask that you give the board an overview of your proposal, and then we can go through any specific engineering issues.
Good evening. Thanks, Mike. My name is Eric Britz, Bowler Engineering. Here tonight to present with me is Amy Carpenter with SFCS. She's the architect of the project. We also have a team here with us to answer some questions if necessary. I'll try to make it brief, go through a little bit of history. I guess we don't have our board, so I don't know that we absolutely need it. A lot of us are here are familiar with Ann's Choice.
Well, there's an easel over there if you want to put that picture up anyway that you have, that rendering.
I could do that.
You're welcome.
My Greg works on the,
They'll let us know.
there you go.
One in the middle.
Looks like you guys are doing it the old-fashioned way.
This is what I'm used to, so.
Yeah.
What happens when Megan's not here?
Right. You lose Megan for a night, we're
That's right.
lost and confused.
So behind me is a plan of the overall campus. On the top of the page, you have Jacksonville Road, Street Road, Johnsville Boulevard, and Ann's Choice is just to the east of Johnsville Boulevard. Back in 2002, the project was the first phase of the project, Neighborhood 1, in the eastern corner of the site, was approved and construction began. In 2004, Neighborhood 2, which is on the northern portion of the lot, was approved, and shortly thereafter construction began on that. In 2006, Neighborhood 3 was approved, and in 2007, Neighborhood 4 was approved. Our focus here tonight is on Neighborhood 2, and in fact, a small portion of Neighborhood 2. We're coming in seeking amended final approval to amend the Phase 2 building of the assisted living skilled nursing facility. It was originally approved for 3 buildings. Only 1 building in the center was built, Phase 1. Phase 2, we're coming back tonight with a slight modification of the building. As Mike had indicated, it's a slight decrease in square footage from 71,900 square feet total square footage to 61,245 square feet. In front of you is a plan of the last approved plan. It was an amended plan that was approved in 2007, showing the layout that was approved at that time. And this next slide, or board, if you will, shows the latest layout, where the new building footprint is to sit. We're actually removing some impervious coverage by removing a small parking lot that was located in this location, just to the west of the proposed building. And this last board just focuses in on the area, excuse me, on the area of development. So as I indicated, it's a slight decrease in impervious coverage with removal of the parking lot. The building itself is a larger footprint than we had before. The old building was a 4-story building. It's now a 2-story building. The prior building was 96 units. This current building is 61 units. Since we coming in today, the regulations have changed with regard to stormwater. So what we have to do, we have to meet the new DEP regs. The site was originally approved, and it worked for the stormwater regulations at the time, but now we have to meet these new DEP regs, the township regulations, with regard to stormwater, and as such, we have to address volume control. To do that, we're proposing underground cistern within the courtyard, and the infiltration isn't good on this lot, so in lieu of infiltration, we're proposing a spray irrigation system to address that particular need. I guess now I'll introduce Amy to talk about the building.
Sure. Is this,
You want?
can you leave that back up for a second? As Eric mentioned, we did slightly decrease the height of the building from 4 stories to 2 stories. That made us increase the footprint slightly, but it's still, the overall building size is 10,000 square feet less than what it was previously. The building, I was the architect for the first phase of the care center as well, and so this building is meant to complement the existing building as much as possible. I had hoped that my pictures would show up, but that's okay. The brick is going to match the existing exactly. It's the same manufacturer and type of brick. The siding will be also matched to the existing building, and it's a hardy plank siding, which is a cementitious board. So again, the same character and quality and percentage of materials on the new building. And then this is a rendering of what it will look like. You will notice that there is on the top level is a roof deck. It's a green roof, actually, that will allow access for the residents of the third floor of the existing building to come out and have access to the outdoors. The third floor of the existing building will be turned into a memory care for Alzheimer's and residents with Alzheimer's and related dementia. So the access to the outdoors is really critical to their well-being. So we're providing that without having to transport them up and down the elevator. And we are also connecting the rest of the campus to the care center now with the addition of a bridge, an enclosed raised pedestrian bridge, and this will match all of the rest of the enclosed raised pedestrian bridges throughout the campus.
Excellent.
Thanks, Amy. And that bridge was also included in the original approved plan as well. So as Mike noted, we have multiple review letters that we received. We're seeking no waivers on this plan. We will comply with all the comments received. So at this time, I'd like to ask the board to consider us for amended final approval, unless you have any questions.
We'll open it up for questions or comments from the board.
I don't like to hear from our professionals.
All right. Mr. Zerona, do you have any comments? Mrs. McNair?
We had only very minor comments in our letter, and they agreed to comply with all of them, so I have no issues related to engineering.
I read the letters, it's really...
The applicant required no zoning relief and no waivers from the subdivision land development requirements. There's really very little in the nature of conditions other than, as you said, you've indicated you'd comply with the recommendations of all the township, the reviews, the planner, the zoning officer, the township engineer. I believe there was a question.
I had one I was waiting. I
Jimmy
have one.
yes.
Can you toss up your first picture that has the overall with Johnsville Boulevard on it?
It's a beautiful structure, too, and I like the idea that the patients can go up, so the residents can go upstairs and get the outdoors. I think
Right.
that's a really great idea.
I mean, we do have 2 enclosed courtyards for residents to use as well, but the roof deck, the roof garden will be specifically for the
beautiful.
memory care residents.
And it's more an Anne's Choice question. At Johnsville Boulevard, you go around that curve there on the Anne's Choice side. We lost a huge amount of trees there when that ice storm hit several years ago that have never been replaced. And I know there's folks from Anne's Choice were here. We had discussed it a year ago about replacing those trees on your side that came down. Don't worry, because Franklin Corporate's coming into our next meeting, and I'll be asking them that question for the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, they're beautiful trees, but the ones that came down, we'd like to see them get replaced at some point.
I agree.
Well, it's my understanding that all the trees on both sides of the boulevard are the the office park's ownership.
Is that correct?
That's why we haven't replaced them, because we've been pressuring the office park to address all the trees.
Would you like to replace them?
We would like to have them replaced, because we pay dues into that office park, and so
Okay.
we've been pressuring them.
So we need to get after them. That's what you're telling me.
Right,
Okay,
right.
because they're coming in next month.
Good,
so.
good.
That was the only question I have. It's because
Okay.
it seems like we've been running in circles with these trees, and they really need to,
get
at
to
the
the
very
bottom
least,
of it
grind the
next
stumps down. It
Right.
looks,
Right.
looks terrible when you drive through.
Agree.
Okay. Other than that, I love your land development.
Thank you.
No questions on it. So if there's none, I guess, are we ready to take action if there's no other
We are.
comments or questions from the board?
Any other public comments?
Is there any public comment on it? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll get on it. If they point us back to you, we're
Right.
going
You're
to
in
be
trouble
giving you a
then.
call. I'm going to be crashing the gate.
That's right. Mark and I live right around the
Right.
corner, so look out.
Well, it's a funny story because I go that way to go to happy hour a couple days a week, and my wife always drives on the way home. I say to her, they got to replace these trees.
Well, it came up just today in our town hall meeting with the residents.
Oh, is that right?
What can we do about the trees?
Right. Okay.
Trying to pressure Franklin to.
All right, well, we'll apply some.
Spend some of our money.
Yes, okay, we'll apply some.
Happy to help with that.
All right, so I'm going to call for a motion then to approve the Ann's Choice Neighborhood 2 amended final land development.
So moved.
Mr. McPhillips, a second.
Second.
Mr. Crowley, any other questions or comments from the board?
No, looks great.
No, it does, nice looking plan.
Thank you. On behalf of Ann's Choice.
Any other, well, we didn't take
Erickson
action
Living.
yet. Relax. Any other
Geez,
comments
we're
or
gonna vote
questions from the
yes,
public?
Mr. Chairman, I would just recommend that the board make the approval conditioned upon the applicant's compliance with all of the review comments of the Township Engineers Review Letter dated July 27th, 2016, the Zoning Officer's Letter of July 26th, 2016, the Bucks County Planning Commission's Letter of July 19th, 2016, and the Township's Planner's Review Letter of August 2nd, 2016, as well as all of the standard terms, conditions, and provisions to be memorialized by a letter issued by my office subsequent to the approval.
And we have a motion from Mr. McPhillips and a second from Mr. Crowley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
And we'll get on them about that. I will, definitely. All right, let me get back to my agenda here. Okay, next up on the agenda is the Township Manager's Report. Mr. Schuster.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have my written report in case there are any questions. One thing to add, there have obviously been some residents' concern about the potential or the announced increase in the water prices due to the purchase of water from North Wales. Myself and Mr. Hagee will be traveling to D.C. next week. Senator Casey has put together a meeting down there with officials from EPA and DOD, and we're obviously going to be pressing for them to pick up all costs related to this so that this will not be passed on to the residents. The bulk of the rest of my report was going to be a presentation. However, this has seemed to have died on me. So we can do one of two things. I can either limp through it, which will be difficult because there are a lot of charts and graphs. There's a small portion that I can explain a little bit differently, and we can muddle our way through that. I could also give the presentation at the next meeting, along with the budget that I propose. Or if you want, we can maybe try a quick 5-minute recess and see if we can get this thing working. It's,
Next meeting.
Next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, if it's, yeah. Let's get it right and
Right.
have it.
I apologize for that. It was working earlier, and I don't know what happened.
We need Megan.
We need Megan back.
Well,
so
yeah, I think
it's,
the consensus, I agree with that.
let's wait till the next meeting because there's going to be great interest in that, and we want everybody to be able to see it. And not
Right.
I agree 100%. There is one thing that I need to bring up to you, though, and let me get my presentation up here so at least I'm quoting the correct numbers, and that is the 2017 MMO. I believe all of you had a document in front of you from our pension specialist that talked about the minimum municipal obligation for both the uniform and the non-uniform pensions. Just to make sure that you and everyone in the public knows what we're discussing, every single year we're given this calculation about what the minimum, and I'll stress the word minimum, municipal obligation is to contribute towards these pension plans. These are future benefits that our employees will receive mostly as part of their collective bargaining agreements. So you'll see two MMO statements on there, one for the police and one for the non-uniform. If you look at lines 9 and 10, and you'll see very different numbers. Number 9 is the minimal municipal obligation, and that is using the smoothing method. That is the method which this township has chosen for I don't know how many years, but that's the current methodology we're on. The smoothing method takes the amount that you're supposed to contribute to the pension, and rather than put it away at the appropriate time, smooth it over at a time. And it was explained very well to everyone. I used a great example by our finance director. It's like if you had a 15-year mortgage and you refinanced over 30 years. It spreads it out, but of course it adds a lot more cost overall. That is the current method that we are on right now. line 10.
May I just ask,
Yes.
is that the method we should be using?
I'm getting to that. Well,
Okay.
the answer is no.
Okay.
But I'm getting to that.
Thank you.
Because what happens under that method is, yes, you will probably reach your end goal, but it'll take longer, and you'll be not getting as much of a return on your investments. For instance, if you were to put into the pension plan $1 million under the smoothing method and $1.5 million under the what's called the market value method, not only are you underfunding it, but you're losing out on the growth, on the interest of that extra $500,000 by not putting that in there. Meanwhile, those funds, if you had them, are sitting in the township account, and they're obviously not earning a lot of interest there, where they could be earning more interest in the pension funds. So line number 10, that's the market value. That's what they say the minimum amount should be if you use the market value method. And that takes into account what your current funding method is, the actuarial analysis. This is the number which most people would say is the most appropriate number to use. It's the one that you're putting away exactly what you should be putting away based on the actuarial calculations. So historically, for both pensions, we've been on the smoothing method. And I had some, again, I'll go through the slides next time, but what has happened is over the years, we've had a decline in the funding of the pension. We've also seen a jump in our pension obligations. There's a number of reasons for that. Number one is the performance of our funds. Our pension funds has not been that great. We've added some employees. There's been changes to the contracts. All of that factors in to what the pension costs are going to be. So we've seen a jump in our pension obligations. Now, there is a little bit of a bright spot to this, because on the non-uniform side, per those collective bargaining agreements, new employees are not going into the defined benefit pension plan. They're getting defined contributions. So over time, that plan will die down and level off. But what I'm here to say is I'm recommending us go to the market value method for the uniform, for the police pension plan. Here are the ramifications of that. Number one, it'll add a few $100,000 to next year's budget. And it's going to be tough, but I think ultimately it's the right thing to do. One of the things I have to do by the end of this month is certify to you the MMO, which you see at the bottom of these sheets, and you'll get that via email from me in the near future. But I wanted to make sure that there's no objections or no issues in going ahead to do it. So I strongly recommend we do this. My preferred method would obviously be to put both the uniform and the non-uniform pensions on the market value method. However, in looking at the budget, I'm trying to balance a number of things, and one of them is to not increase the tax rate. So you have to make some choices. And in this case, the recommendation that I'm making is leave the non-uniform pension plan where it is, because we don't necessarily have the funds to support that. And also, as I said, we've capped that program where no new employees are going into it, so that it's going to improve over time. Mm-hmm. One last thing I want to point out that is exasperating this situation. There's something called the assumed rate of return that we utilize in all of these calculations. It's the rate that we assume our investments are going to make over time. The rate that we have used historically and up through today is 8%. 8% was a great number 10, 15 years ago, but today it's just not realistic. So part of what I'm telling you is the projections that you'll see are, in my opinion, a little bit optimistic and will skew the numbers. But that's another reason why I want to go ahead and put the right amount into the pension plan. So that's where I'll end it right now. And I just want to make sure that there was no objections or no strong concerns with shifting over to this method. It's a situation of pay me now or pay me more later.
Well, I just want to give a little bit of history, because I was here when we began to use the smoothing method,
Yeah.
and the reason that we did is we were broke.
Yes.
And in the middle of a severe recession. And our MMO went from $300,000 a year, that's now up to 1.7. It jumped to over $1 million within a couple of years' time. And the smoothing method was put forth by the state of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And we chose that method because, quite frankly, we were broke. We weren't in a position. Mm-hmm. So we are in a position now to start to right the ship.
And that was one of the things that, when I go through this presentation, you'll see we're in a much different position than we were 4, 5, 6 years ago. I'm not going to say that everything is rosy and we don't have our challenges. We certainly do. But we have the opportunity now to make what I think are better financial decisions with the township funds.
So you suggest we take a little more aggressive approach?
I wouldn't call it aggressive. In this case, it would even be somewhat conservative because we're not taking a gamble on the future. We're saying we're going to put the money away that we should be right now rather than gamble that we're going to get that 8% rate of return, that the pension plan, the obligation is not going to increase because of contractual obligations. So, it's more aggressive in terms of, yes, we're putting more money in, but the payoff on the back end is a lot better. I'm doing this, I have very selfish reasons. I don't want to be sitting here before you in 6 years saying, we've got a major problem. I see an opportunity to fix this now, and do it in the confines of our current budget.
Greg, may I ask, what are your projections for the percentage going this way rather than the 8%?
That's a very good question. I think a more realistic assumed rate of return is somewhere around 7.5%. There are some people who would say 7.5 is somewhat aggressive in itself, so maybe 7.25 might be better. But that's a good conversation to have with our investment consultants. But there's, I do have a report that pulls out what everyone else in the county is using for their assumed rate of return, and it's all over the place. I mean, there's no one higher than 8%. There are still some people, there are some townships that use 8%, but I see most of them in the 7.25, 7.5 range.
This seems like a very sound plan compared to the one we're using now. And like Mark said, in desperate situations, you have to go the route you have to go. But I think, given this situation, sounds like a really good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I apologize because I had this laid out in a very logical fashion. I would explain it a lot better than I just did with all these charts, but technology failed me.
It's quite all right.
No, I think it's the right way to go if we go to market rate on the uniformed. Even when you're looking at market rate for uniformed and the smoothing option for the non-uniforms, we're still talking, what, 2.2, 2.3?
You're correct. I believe the total, you're right, in that neighborhood, yes.
$2.3 million. It's probably our second largest line item now
10%
after
of our
the
annual
police.
budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and I appreciate you looking at it, and you know what, we're going to have to make hard decisions, and we're going to have to be more, maybe not aggressive, more realistic.
Yep.
But I would be interested in hearing from our finance people, our pension experts. At what point do we really have to get aggressive? I mean, there's only so much. Even if you take tax increases, you can only do so much. Is there a point coming where do you think we can manage this way, or do we have to look at other options down the road? Because right now, 2.4 million probably. There's a lot of uses we could use $2.4 million for.
Absolutely, and the first advice I give is when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Right.
And I give everyone a lot of credit because this township did do that, partially when you went ahead and capped the non-uniform plan.
Right.
Now, I don't see that happening on the police side, and I'm getting away from a defined benefit plan. But going forward, whether it be through contract negotiations or planning, that's something that has to be addressed. But it is going to be an issue that needs to be funded over many years, and it's not going away. But if we get in a habit of appropriately funding it every single year and managing those costs, we're not going to see these wild swings on the MMO from year to year, because that's what kills you, is that when you have a budget that this is what it's been, maybe it goes up 2 or 3% a year, things move around, but every couple of years you see a jump of 200, 300, 400,000 in the MMO. Those are the things that prevent you from going out and doing other activities or other projects, other initiatives.
Right.
And we went from 300,000 to 1.7 million in a 6-year time period.
Correct.
Right, and to that end too, I mean, a lot of people may not recognize it, but you and the administrative staff do a lot behind the scenes. Like, we're always looking at our healthcare rates and other things to try to offset where we can. But it's something that we used to talk a lot about. MMO was on the tip of our tongues for a couple of years there, and thankfully the recovery has slowly but surely started to come. and we're talking about growth and development and everything, but I think this is an important issue that we need to keep at the forefront, because it's going to be an issue that everybody sitting here is going to have to deal with throughout their terms, and probably our successors' terms too.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and we need to set the standard now, set the way we're going to do this. And I think we can manage the waves as they come.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'm off my soapbox. You guys
Makes
go.
a lot of common sense to me, too. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there's no objection, what you'll see probably next week is this document certifying to you that we'll be using the market value method for the police pension plan and continue to use the smoothing method for the non-uniform pension plan.
Okay. Is that all you have for your report, Mr.?
That is all. And again, I apologize for the technology
Okay.
issues.
Not a problem.
Oh, that's 5 times.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the solicitor's report. Mr. Savona?
Mr. Chairman, just a few items to highlight. I have submitted my report. If you have any questions, happy to discuss, and I'll defer the land development comments to Karen. We are on the codification. We are expecting a draft of the final codification document from General Code, hopefully next month. So assuming that arrives as scheduled, as I said, this has been a long-standing project to get our ordinances recodified and published so it's in an easier, more usable version for the residents. I would hope that we will be in a position to do that, if not by the end of the year, hopefully in January, so that we can bring that to a close. Mr. Schuster and I were at the Shenandoah Woods property on Friday with representatives from the Navy and another developer who is interested in looking at the site. I've had somewhat of a dialogue with Greg Preston from the Navy, who is in charge of the disposal of that property. The Navy's getting anxious, of course. They want to dispose of that site and get it off their books. But I think the tour that we had on Friday is encouraging. We have a new developer with some new ideas about how they might be able to utilize the site. So hopefully we'll be hearing back from them once they complete some more due diligence. And then finally, I think we're getting closer to at least a proposed settlement agreement for the Wawa situation. I know we've gotten some comments from the neighbor on the proposed stipulation that Wawa forwarded. The manager and Mr. Kennard are going to meet with the residents to go through that document and then submit a final reply back to Wawa. So otherwise, if there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer it, but I'll defer and let Karen address the construction and land development.
Anybody have anything for Mr. Savona?
I do not.
I don't either, so I'm going to move on to the engineer's report. Ms. McNair?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start by saying since the last board meeting, there was 2 planning commission meetings. I saw the Longstreth preliminary final application, Christ Home Child Development, which is the York Road property, preliminary final, and the Home 2 Suites final land development application. I would anticipate these would be presented to the board sometime in October. The next planning commission meeting, which is at the end of this month, I believe the Lidl Land Development, which is a German grocery store that's similar to Aldi. They're proposing to redevelopment the old Pathmark or the 263 Marketplace site. And also, I've gotten several questions on the status of the Weiss project by Ivyland and York Roads. We do have construction plans. We're waiting for them to request a pre-construction meeting so we can detail for them the township standards such as working hours, how to process escrow releases, and such things as that. And then if you have any questions, that's all I have for the report.
Anyone have any questions for the engineer, for Ms. McNair? No? Okay, I don't either. No, seeing none, I'm going to move on to Township Manager's announcement of upcoming agenda items. We'll have a public comment.
Okay,
Yeah, it's coming up.
okay.
I won't forget you, Maria.
No, I mean, I don't want to forget what she just said, because it's not correct.
Okay, well, we'll have a chance at
Okay.
public comment.
Okay, upcoming agenda items. First of all, we will have both meetings in October. We're not going to cancel either of them. And as Karen just stated, Christ Home and Home to Suites are ready to go, and we anticipate having both of those on your agenda for the first meeting in October. That's all I have.
Okay. Next up is public comment. Second round of public comment, another opportunity to comment on any items.
Okay. Marie Brzezinski, the 98 Roberts Road. I thought when we had the meeting, which was I think very much, the Planning Commission, they were very good to us. And I think my neighbors, they were all very nice, and everybody thanked them They were very organized in their questioning. I thought the lady there, which is not, was sitting in the planning commission meeting, I thought that it was a preliminary.
Yes,
Excuse me.
Okay.
You don't have to answer that. First, it was a preliminary, which means we have to get back, right? We are coming back to talk about the storm management situation. And I am going to remind, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to remind the five of you that the township supervisors that went before you, there was a lot of money set up for storm management situations. There is a neighbor in the corner who he was here and he talked about it, in the corner of Roberts Road and Marion Road, who is paying almost $600 a month as a retainer to a solicitor because of the amount of ice and water that comes around from Marion Road that has destroyed the cars in Marion Road. We have a horrible problem, and what this owner is proposing is two little dumps like we have in Tennessee. You know, a big hole, the water goes in there. Let me explain it to you. The man, that owner, is a liar. He lied consistently. It wasn't for him to have 29 homes or 35 homes. It's not a big deal. From 29, that's where the township supervisors wanted it, and at R2, he's telling us in our face, oh, 6 houses more, it's not a big deal. There are a lot of bushes that are not going to be there, that's for sure. There is an exit that is going to get straight down to Roberts Road, and he has no study to this date, third meeting, and there is not a study of traffic. I thought, because I'm an ignorant, that there was a big study going on in Roberts Road. And then everybody said to me, Marie, that was for the electric company. And I was running around the neighborhood because the kids took all the cones. So Sunday morning, before I go to church, I am recuperating the cones to put them in there in line. So there is 2 lines, so we can tell how many cars go through that development. What a disaster. So I am so desperate. I asked for 2 signs for the trucks not to go through Ivyland Road. They are not there. That was a month and a half ago, because we don't want even to think about WISE and coming in there and not having that. The other thing is I'm requesting that when WISE gets there, please, they cannot be there putting gas on those tanks at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. That they will have to have an ordinance that by 9 o'clock they have their gas in their tanks and they go home. You follow what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, yes.
Yes. I'm telling you, that engineer was a very nice person. He was very agreeable. He understood. The owner is greedy. The guy could care less. He told us, oh, I build 100 homes here and there. I told him, I said, this property or Longstreth has nothing to do with Hart School or Leary School. They were 2 different identities. We couldn't even have enough soccer fields on Longstreth because it's so small. I'm telling you, the guy has no respect for nothing but money. And we are going to be in a lot of trouble if you guys don't force him to have a reasonable traffic study, number one, because he's telling us that there is going to be about 42 cars coming out of there. And only one exit, of course. That's number one. And number two, it doesn't matter if it is 29 or 35. It does matter. It does a lot of matter. And the storm management, you know how many years you were not here, and the 5 of you were not here, but you will not believe how these township supervisors worked and worked and worked and put money on the side so that we could take care of the horrible situation in Warminster of the storm management. Across from...
And Marie, we have addressed several
Yes.
stormwater management
Across
issues throughout the
from
township.
Longest, I don't
We have,
remember
and
you
spent a
sitting in
substantial
there.
amount of money.
Yeah, that's what I said. Across from Longest, there is a property and has a little hole for the water to go in. The man that lives in that house, his entire house is decayed to the point that I don't know where he's going to go from the amount of water and horrible situation with the storm management situation, whatever it is. He has to address the storm problem and the traffic problem.
He's going to be required to adjust the stormwater on his property by ordinance. I mean, he's going to be required to, by law.
Not by putting 2 little holes in the north. by
Whatever
Maryland,
facilities he
and
engineers
another
have to
hole
be
in Roberts.
approved by our engineer, by
Excuse me?
law. Whatever facilities he designs and installs on that property has to be reviewed and approved by our engineer in the
Yes.
township.
And it
by law.
hasn't been,
It's
it
go-
hasn't
it
been
will
looked
be, or he
properly.
won't get his UNO.
It hasn't been looked properly, I'm telling you that much. Okay? I am sitting in here with my neighbor next door. I apologize because I keep forgetting the number. She lives in 1091 Roberts Road. Across the street from him, from them, 2 older people. Her husband is over 85 years old. They have put a truck or whatever it is and a storage with all washing machines. I mentioned that
Trailer?
already.
The
Yes.
tra-
So is he
the trailer?
basically
He's
running a
sitting in
business
there,
out of there?
A bunch of old washing machines, a store in the middle of the
Are you
street.
just sitting there, or is he
Just
selling
sitting
parts?
there.
About 3 months it's there, 3 months.
Okay.
And we have a hard time to get up from our driveway.
And nobody
I'm going to
can
give that to
make
Mr.
it
Schuster
right.
because he'll send somebody out to take a look.
Nobody can make it right
Well, if it's,
from
if it's in the
Mueller
sh- if
Road
it's in the
to
street, that's
Roberts
only
Road.
traffic.
Marie, what is the address where this?
91.
That's the problem.
1091.
It's 966 something, Mueller.
Mueller Road.
Mueller and Roberts.
It's right across from her property.
Sure, we'll see it.
We'll send someone out tomorrow.
I
Take
am
a
a
look.
horrible person with,
That's all right.
with
He
details.
has an idea where it's at.
With details.
And excuse me, also it's danger when the people come down.
I'm sorry, but you
Ma'am,
have to
people
take the
can't-
microphone.
people
Sorry.
can't
hear you at home.
We can't hear you at home.
Come on up.
So-
You have to see your name.
It's danger when people make a right to come to Roberts Road to come down. It's very dangerous. The other day almost one car hit the other one.
If it's a hazard or safety hazard,
Very
it's not
hazard.
supposed to be there. We'll get it. we'll
Please
get it
state your
moved.
name,
3
ma'am.
months, 3 months.
State your name and your address.
Carmela Falcone, 1091 Roberts
Send someone
Road.
out there
Thank
to
you.
look at that.
Okay.
Roberts and Mueller.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Roberts and Mueller, right.
Roberts and Mueller.
Yeah,
That's where the,
very dangerous, very,
If
very
it's a
dangerous.
traffic issue,
Thank you.
violation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and then I would like, last and not least, for you to check, maybe to send animal control. And again, I'm not good with small details. I have a property on Roberts Road where there is seven dogs. I don't know if they are breeding them or
I'm sorry,
what.
did you say
is-
ducks?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Dogs, sorry.
Possible bowel
I
treatment.
believe the ordinance is you can have tops 3 dogs in a home.
I don't know.
I don't
I
know. We'd have
off
to
the top
take a
of my
look.
head.
I don't know off the top of my head. What was the
Whatever
address
it
again?
is,
What's the
I don't
address,
know the
Marie?
number, but let me explain it to you. When you are in Roberts Road, and you leave the driveway of Longstreth, it's the second house before you get into, yeah, no, I'm so sorry, I don't remember.
It's okay,
the number.
Marie. Is the
I
property?
I will mail it to him.
Okay,
So
that's
you
great.
have
Promised.
Mail me the address and we'll go ahead and
Yes,
investigate.
I will do
If-
that.
If there's a potential
7
violation.
dogs, there is either a puppy mill, something is going on, they are all the same class of dogs.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Check
you.
it out.
Thank you.
Marie.
Thanks, Marie.
I feel like I'm the
Chief, you need a
police.
minute?
Thank you for everything. Thank you for putting up with me.
Thank you for coming.
You're a resident, this is our job.
Be a meeting without you.
Ahora no
I think-
podemos ir.
I think Chief Donnelly has something?
Yes.
Hi, Chief.
Hello, how are you? Tomorrow night, I think it was mentioned, but we have a rather large event going on at Tennant High School, Archbishop Wood versus St. Joe's Prep for a high school football game. And it is being televised by ESPN as a live high school game.
Wow.
Therefore, it would already attract a ton of fans, both Wood and St. Joe's Prep.
I live on that street, so it'll be interesting.
It's going to be interesting tomorrow. We lived it 2 years ago with Wood and
LaSalle.
LaSalle.
Yeah.
Right.
I was out there today, and if you were watching me run in and out, I was talking to Cindy from Tennant High School back and forth on what we're doing for tomorrow. We're going to have a tremendous amount of law enforcement out there, talking with Joe Velton for the past week. All I would ask is that the people be patient. It is going to be congested on Centennial
Yeah,
Road
I remember
and
those Saturday,
surrounding
it was nuts.
neighborhoods.
Yeah.
There will be no parking on the soccer fields across by Centennial Station by order of William Tennant High School. All that traffic's going to be diverted down to McDonald Elementary School
Oh, wow.
as an overflow. So Street Road, Centennial Road will all be congested along with the surrounding neighborhoods, maybe. There'll be no parking on the strip by Centennial Road by the firehouse. I have to keep it open so they can get in and out. But just be patient. They're looking close to a couple thousand people come tomorrow's game.
Chief, the best thing people can do is I'm having a tailgate at my house.
Yes.
I already ordered the food, little BYOB.
Everybody come
Park
over
at my
there.
house and we'll walk up.
I'll let you
We're
give out, I'll let you give out the address. I
Revere
won't give out the
Terrace, sir,
address.
Come on over. It's BYOB.
But,
That's what we do. We
Right.
park and stay and walk
There-
up.
And walk
yeah,
up, yeah.
There is no tailgating at William Tennant or McDonald Elementary
On school
School.
property.
We're
There is-
tailgating at Mark's.
Yeah, there is
Right.
no alcohol on Tennant property or McDonald Elementary School property by order of the school district. So it's normally not anybody from Warminster, like it's not Wood. It's usually the
Yeah.
outside jurisdictions who are allowed to do it at other places. They assume they can do it here. They can't.
I
So-
think it's going to be a really nice showcase because that is a
Oh, it'll
beautiful
be.
stadium up there.
It's gonna be a good time.
It's beautiful. It's going to be a
If-
nice showcase.
We can get everybody in
And
and
out
everybody
safely.
out
Yep.
as efficiently and effectively as we possibly can. So,
What time's kickoff?
7:00.
well, they are talking at 7:30,
Yeah,
but
4:30
we will be out there by 4:30 tomorrow because they're talking about tailgaters showing up at 5 or 5:30. So
Is there a press release that's coming out on that?
there's a
that we
press
can-
release that was sent out by the EMA, Joe Velton. So I
So we
assume
can
it
share
went
that
out.
around on.
I believe it's already on the township
Yeah,
website.
I believe it's
Okay.
already out. I got it this afternoon. So just want to remind everybody, go have a good time. It is not an Eagles game. It is a high school football
It's
game.
gonna be fun, though. It's gonna
Do
be a
not
good time.
treat it like an Eagles game, please.
That's going to be a good time.
So,
We have confidence in you and your force.
I think
Chief.
someone has a question for you, Chief.
no, they're public highway, they're public roads that we receive.
The question was, will
Centennial,
there be any
because
restrictions?
of the fire station and the emergency access that has to come in and out. And there'll be shuttle buses running from McDonald Elementary School up to Tennant High School for drop-off and pick-up and all that. But as of right now, our ingress and egress for emergency operations is through Centennial. That's why we're going to really clamp
This
down
is
on
going to be like the
parking.
papal visit. Huh?
Yeah, almost.
gonna be busy.
On
But
Centennial
hopefully
Road.
it'll be short duration.
Yeah.
Short intensity, and we'll be, by this time that night, well, no, they're talking of going late, because it's, you got TV timeouts and all
Oh, yeah,
that that are
yeah.
going to be
10, 10:30
factored into
boards,
a high school game. So, high school game that should take an hour and a half, 2 hours, may take 3 hours.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night.
So, all right.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chief.
Have
Chief.
fun.
Thank
See
you,
ya.
Chief.
Good
Is there any other public comment before we go to supervisor comment? None? Supervisor comment? Ms. Frescatore?
I'd like to say this is a very productive meeting. We've taken some great steps to protect our residents with some of the zoning, with the help of our expert, Michael Savona. I'm also very happy that we're going to be doing the comprehensive plan on behalf of our residents. I'd like to thank Karen Holsheiser for all her input tonight on the different ordinances and the planning that's been going on. Greg, you're doing a phenomenal job. We hired you, and you started out running, and you've taken a lot of great steps to save the township money, and now you're really helping us with our MMO. So I'm really grateful to you for that, and all my fellow board members. I think we're working very well together to do what's right on behalf of our residents. So thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Monroe.
I have no comments.
Mr. Big Phillips.
Hey, tonight you may notice that Megan Weaver's not here tonight, and that's because sadly her grandmother passed away. So our hearts and prayers go out to the Weaver family.
Absolutely. Well put.
That's it.
Mr. Crowley?
Yeah, just, to echo Greg, Eric, pretty much everybody who's come in the last couple months in 2016 has melded very well with our existing team, and everybody's doing terrific work. We sit up here and we often talk with residents, and we can't take the credit for all the hours and effort that the township's employees and administrators put in. So I just want to say thank you. When it comes to snowstorms, Greg, you have inherited the Facebook mantle for snowstorms. Last snowstorm, I got the beating of a life online. So you will handle that for us. But I really want to point out your responsiveness to social media, to people reaching out on social media has been terrific.
Thank you.
And I think it's helped the community see that we are trying to adapt to the changing times, and we are being responsive as possible. So I won't embarrass you anymore. I know you hate it when we talk
Well
like
said,
this.
Jason.
Yeah. And I just want to take a personal moment and wish my blushing bride of the last 13 years a happy birthday. She turns 29 again on next week. But she, that's the thing about women. As they age, they get more and more beautiful, and well, the men, we end up like me. So.
You for yourself.
So, without responding to that comment, I'm gonna yield my time to the gentleman from Revere Drive.
All right. Just a response, I was going to talk about it earlier with the snow removal from last year with that snow event. Our Public Works Director had just left, and we didn't have a Public Works Director. Our foreman for the Public Works crew, Paul Lizzie, was at Fantasy Baseball League down in Florida. So the person running the snow operation was our interim manager, Steve Wiesner, who we love dearly. Steve is an accountant by trade. So I get a call on Sunday, and he said, I think I've made some tactical errors in the snow removal. And I said, Steve, with all due respect, I know you have, because my phone's been ringing since 6 o'clock this morning. He said, well, how about if I come and pick you up and we take a ride around? I said, well, how about if I get my house dug out and you go take the ride around? But God bless Steve. But that answered a lot of what happened with the snow
And to that degree, I mean, Eric has been very impressive so far.
Yes. So
Very impressive.
it won't happen again this year. But anyway, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So moved.
Mr. Monroe, meeting adjourned. Excellent.